Alright everybody, today we're going to be talking about this. WWE's The Hardcore Diaries by Mick Foley. And as you can see, I have the jacket because I struggle to actually read it with... Oh yeah, my feet out. Oh yeah. I'll get to that one. But yeah, there's the little jacket cover. But I'm actually reading it like this. It's more comfortable for me to read. Today, I was actually going to talk a little bit, since this is my first time reading a wrestling book, I was actually going to talk a little bit about my history with wrestling. And here's the first wrestling book I ever read. The Hardy Boys, Matt and Jeff Hardy. This came out, I think, around 2003, because Jeff Hardy was always my favorite wrestler growing up. So, should I hold this? I feel like maybe I can like hold this. And because who knows? Maybe I'll read this again. I've only read it the first time. So I'll just hold this. Oh shit! I had oh lord, my phone. I have to get. God damn it! Hold on. Son of a bitch. Alright. Yeah. Alright, I'll just hold this so it feels like thematic. Wait, is this working? Alright, so, yeah. Oh, so, I should talk about my recording location first of all. Is this a good, decent enough lighting? This is my, whatever. Usually I like to record outside. It's got a good environment, you know. Sometimes I'll just walk around. I can't do that for this because I take so many notes, you know. So it's kind of hard. I have to look at my phone. Like, oh yeah, what am I recording and shit like that. So, I figured today I'd talk about a little bit of my history with wrestling and why it kind of interests me. Now I gotta figure out where to begin. Well, the first time I really remember watching wrestling, oh man, I feel like it was like, not the late 90s, like the mid 90s or something. I was just like a kid. And I just remember watching it. And like, even then I could tell something was up. I didn't know it was fake, or maybe I would have even thought it was fake, but it looked like the pinfall. I was like, alright, so it seems like it might be legit to a certain point, but then I was like, the pins don't make sense. Like, it don't look like they're really being held down, so it feels like they're letting them like kick out if they feel like they can keep going or something. I could tell something was off. I just remember, even when I was fucking like 5, 6, or 7. So yeah, you have to willingly, I think, be in a state of denial for people even back then to think it was real. I don't know, Jim Cornette, you know, he'll talk about back in the old days it looked a lot more real maybe, and so it was a little bit easier to buy. Nowadays, you just can't do that. It's just gotten worse and worse. I remember I'd see Sting. Sting was like the first one I remember seeing. He was doing a surfer look, and I just thought of him as my favorite wrestler back then, because I always remember like seeing him. And then it was just, I'd see a few moments, but I didn't really get into wrestling. Then I moved to Tennessee, you know, those down south people, man, the Boondocks in like Maynardville, Tennessee, you know, where Lieutenant Aldo reigns from, and Inglorious Bastards. I remember I was tripping because I watched it in 2009, and me and my friend Nate, he watches these videos, so shout out to Nathan Armstrong. We were watching it with his girlfriend at the time. I think her name was Sarah, and they're like, well, fuck, now I'm going off on a tangent. Anyway, that's beside the point. The point is, I was in this place called Stanley Welch's Trailer Park. Of course, you live in a fucking trailer park down south. I'm sure you're gonna hear wrestling fans, you know. And so that was right when it was around '97. I remember this. My friend Mickey, Michael Ward. I think he taped this episode, and it was always like the one I think about the most. And I remember him playing this game, WCW versus the World back then. And then my friend Joe Warren Williams, rest in peace. He had a burst appendix back in 2008. But yeah, he had this episode tape where it was fucking, you know, the NWO had just been around for like a year at that point, and you'd see fucking Hogan now. That's where I think of Hogan, you know. I'm sure I saw him before that maybe, but my first really views of Hulk Hogan were in the NWO. We had that fucking black ass, like partially blonde and black, you know, and then he would have the spray painted belt and shit and just come out, and it was him versus like the Four Horsemen. Yeah, those are my early memories of wrestling, man. And then, so I watched it on and off around that time. And I remember seeing like Stone Cold, you know, like that's right around when Stone Cold got big. I don't think it was harder for me to get TV access to that, and most people watching WCW around me, but I'd be like, oh man, that Stone Cold looks like a badass motherfucker, you know. And then I was like partially interested in him, but I didn't really, I don't know, it's so weird, just those moments, because I don't remember what was going on live around those times, you know. I remember even Low and Hart back in like the Blue Blazer days, man, and you know, you find out later he died and shit. It's just crazy. I'm trying to think. It was right around, I think it was right around 2002 or 2003 when I started finally watching regularly. You know, like I'd catch them before then. You know, I watch it. Man, it's like my first WrestleMania I watched live was WrestleMania 18. It sucks if I'd had a year before, you know, I could have saw WrestleMania 17 live. That'd have been awesome. That's the best. Like if you watch that show, it's all you need to watch wrestling. Like I've told people that before. I was like, all you need to do is watch WrestleMania 17 and you have everything great about what wrestling used to be, you know, right there. And you don't, that's the only show you have to watch as a wrestling. Even if you're not, like, if you're not a wrestling fan, that's all you gotta show people is WrestleMania 17 if you get an idea of why wrestling was great. And if they don't like that, there's no chance, you know. But recently, I've pretty much lost, well, oh yeah, so the most emotional, that's why part of the reason I have this Hardy Boys book over here, the most emotional match, I think, because, you know, back in the day, they used to be, I got on GameFAQs and was talking to people on pro wrestling boards, man. They were so obsessed with, you know, the work rate back then. And nowadays, I think people have realized more the value of emotion, the emotionality, or however you want to say it, and matches. And so, like, The Rock versus Hogan would probably get shit on by the internet wrestling community, you know, back in the day. But, nowadays, I think people appreciate it, you know, for its the grand spectacle it provided and all that shit. But man, thinking back, man, you know, Jeff Hardy versus The Undertaker in a ladder match, man, that's what caused me to be such a big Jeff Hardy fan, and it sucks he fell off so hard, you know. He was just so fucking awesome to watch back then. I was just really invested in him, you know. He really appealed, I think, to, you know, that, you know, the more, I don't want to say outsiders, and nothing fucking Hall and Nash, but he appealed to, you know, like the more socially, what do you call it, challenge, I guess, I don't know, just, you know, goth kids and shit like that. Not that I wasn't necessarily a goth kid back in the day, like, I probably had somewhat of a phase of that for a little bit, but it was mixed with a lot of other things. I don't ever think I just ever feel like one archetype back then. Here's this book. Should I get to the point? Well, I'll meander a little bit. Let's go. But yeah, he got shit on around 2003. I remember us standing up for him, man. Nowadays, people, you know, people give him his dues, but yeah, back in 2003, man, they called him a spot monkey, you know. He's always watching all the time, and that's because it's funny, because I started having this, I had this tape where I was finally starting to record Jeff Hardy matches. I was like, I'm going to have Jeff Hardy matches. I had like one of him and Steven Richards back when he had that face paint, the real, what do you call it, like messy shit, where he'd get all over people before he started doing the full-on face mess, and it would get all over Steven Richards. And then he fought The Rock, and then I was like, alright, that's like my second match I'd recorded. And right after that, he fucking quit, you know, or like got released because of his drug issues. I think he was on meth at the time, which is funny. I think in this book they talk about how they're avoiding drugs, and, you know, anyway, I don't need to get all into that, but yeah, dude, it sucked so much. And then I remember he went to ROH, and everyone was like shitting on him at the time. Everyone fucking it was like the cool thing to do to hate Jeff Hardy back then. But I was just a huge fan. I didn't give a fuck. And he did that move, the compact. Did he win with the compactor? Like, a lot of people didn't even know. Like, what he calls that movie? Yeah, it's a compactor, where he does that pin where he like picks up their legs and like jumps on them. Anyway, and then he has that whisper of the wind, and the fucking, he does that fucking turnbuckle thing where he lifts his legs and like whiplashes. Those are cool. I don't know, I used to know his whole moveset, you know. Yeah, he was even doing the Codebreaker for a while. I went back and I was like, damn, he did the Codebreaker before fucking Jericho did. Even did it on Jericho at No Way Out in 2003. Anyway, let's jump to, I've really lost interest in wrestling right around, it's ironic because it was right around when Brock Lesnar went to the UFC, and it's funny because a wrestler made me lose interest in wrestling, and I started becoming a UFC fan. So I was watching UFC, and I started getting into jiu-jitsu, and my friend Mickey, coincidentally, it was him too that brought me into MMA, and we'd just grapple like right before work, because we worked together for a while. We'd meet and wrestle and shit. But yeah, so I started following UFC, and I just fell out. And the only real match that caught my attention was when I watched WrestleMania 25, which took place in Fort Worth. By the way, I went to WrestleMania for the first time, WrestleMania 38, just this year, actually. It's the first time I've been went to night one, got to see Stone Cold wrestle. Probably his last match, too, maybe. We'll see. But that was kind of cool, even though the seats weren't great. Have that on my channel. But yeah, WrestleMania 25, man. Undertaker versus HBK. I watched that, even though it was completely almost like had no interest in wrestling anymore. That match got me hooked, mainly because Undertaker had this very unique gimmick, and I think that's what made it such like a 5-star match. You know, is the fact Undertaker's gimmick had this unique motive where everybody was wanting to see how far they could take him at WrestleMania. Could they beat him? And so they had a lot of false finishes, and too many false finishes almost always fucks up wrestling. Like, that's what's fucking up AEW and all the independents. They just non-stop false finishes. It works like when you have a gimmick like that needs it, but if you do it all the time, it takes away the magic of it, and then it doesn't feel like a false finish. It goes, oh, of course they're going to kick out. Yeah, okay, they know this finish move. Of course they're going to kick out 2, 3, 4, 5 times. All right, whatever. So recently, for like last year, CM Punk returned in AEW, and I started watching a little bit more. I'd download it, visit the Bay of Pirates or whatever, not like I have a major interest. I even bought Peacock for a little bit just to watch old school wrestling events and a few new ones. I just don't, the only way I really know about what's going on right now is listening to Jim Cornette's podcast. What else was I going to say? But now I've lost interest kind of again because CM Punk had that fight with the Young Bucks. I'm like, it's like, he got stripped of the title. They put the fucking belt on Moxley again instead of putting on Danielson, you motherfuckers. But whatever. Ultimately, I don't care that much because I haven't been watching regularly. I just like maybe download a show and like skip through it to the good parts, or just watch it on, the internet. So whatever, it doesn't affect me too much. I haven't been a wrestling fan. Committed one since like 2007. So that's like, there's only been a handful of years where I've actually watched wrestling like all that year. I'd watch every Raw and every pay-per-view. There was a time when I had to do that, but it's like it just comes and goes, so I've never really been a consistent wrestling fan, I guess. So fuck it. Now that we've probably gone in, I don't even know how many minutes because it doesn't have a timer, but I went in my history of wrestling, and since I've done that, because I'm gonna have a few more wrestling books I'll probably talk about, so I don't ever have to do that. It'll be here on the Hardcore Diaries one. So let's pull, now that we've done that, let's pull up this son of a bitch and let's talk about this specific book. Maybe I should go and pull it up instead of just having that jacket. Alright. Excuse me. So, now let's get to him. Now, one thing, I'm still going to give some backstory that isn't related to this book, because I'm going to tell you how I got to this book. So, this is going to be non-stop fucking backstory, I swear to God. Alright, I went to the Dollar General. It was back, was it 2019? It doesn't feel like that long ago. Might have been just like, actually, yeah, it might have been just 2021, because I was thinking about when I got, every so often at Dollar General, I've had it like twice where I bought a book there. They always have like $3. But the fucking Blade Runner book, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? Some of those say Sleep, so I'll say. But then another time I bought Foley is Good. That was his second book. So I've read his second book. And I realized, man, when I was reading that, it was great. It was a great read. It wasn't fucking... He even talks about it. He's like, I had to get rid of my ghostwriter because he was writing shit like, oh, I enjoyed my mom's spaghetti. And like, who the fuck cares? Like, no one gives a fuck. No one wants to read about their, these throwaway bullshit lines. So he's like, you know what? Talks to his publisher. He's like, I just want to write this myself, And then he's got he's got some skill. There are some corny lines because he's not, like he states in this book, he's not a writer that also wrestles, or however he puts it, but he's a pro wrestler that likes to write, or whatever. Yeah, let's say it like that. So you can tell there's moments like that where a writer would not write some of the shit he writes, but he writes it with passion. Even if he doesn't always write it the most skilled, it's always written passionately, so it comes out. Like, there's a lot of funny stuff, like I said, a little corny stuff, but overall it's really, you can get hooked into it, so it's all that matters, I guess. Let's put it that way before I start running in circles. But that is, like, that's one of the early meta moments of his writing. But one of the things that really captivates, and this is going to start applying to this book, is how meta he gets. Like, he'll talk about who his publisher is and the rules of, how he talks and when deadlines are, and what he's thinking about as he's writing, and who's associated with the publishing process, and like if he has to go to people for book blurbs or reviews, and he wants to get a fucking line, somebody to like say something nice about his book. And so I feel like that could apply to any writer, like, just if you have any interest in writing, the meta process of publishing, reading something like this could be useful, even if you don't have a huge interest in pro wrestling. Let me see if I have anything on here. He's good. Oh yeah, so this is his third memoir. So is there anything? And there's a lot of interesting little facts to get into. I'm trying to figure out if I should just open this book and get it started. Let me see. Alright, so what interests me, and this goes back to just my personal interest. Let me see if I can get this started. Don't know. Alright, so look, the very first entry is April 24th, 2006. This is actually somewhat of a meaningful date to me, because in 2006 there was a portion of my life where I started getting in shape. This is actually my ex's birthday. And was she turning 17, 18, anyway, sometime around there. I don't need to get into all that, but because we dated, we were like not necessarily high school sweethearts as you say, but you know, kind of like something similar to that. But it was when we were almost like starting to get back together, you know, and I traveled all the way back to Tennessee, so it made me think of all this when that came up, but that's just like personal on me. Alright, let me see. Vince pic. Oh yeah, so there's a Vince picture. There's a picture of Vince McMahon. And actually what's interesting right now about wrestling is he has recently had a bunch of allegations come out against him. They would spend like billions of dollars, or is it maybe just millions? I don't know. Yeah, I can't remember. I'm sure it's millions. You can't spend fucking waste billions, of course, in fucking this business, maybe. But then Triple H has taken over, and so that's what is swinging AEW out of favor, in favor of WWE and Triple H being in charge. So that is kind of interesting when it comes to modern wrestling. What is oh yeah, and so in one thing they talk about in here, I don't know exactly where it is, but there's more pictures. So that's Katie Couric. He talks a lot about her. But one interesting thing is that WrestleMania 17, I learned it wasn't actually originally going to be Vince McMahon versus Shane McMahon. It was supposed to be Vince McMahon versus him, Mick Foley. And so I thought that was interesting. I didn't know that until I read this. That could have changed. I mean, I wonder what the WCW angle would have been coming into that. Oh yeah, on page 18 they talk about this, if I can't find it. The time concerning stream. Did they talk about this? Anyway, what's interesting is they said it's fitting to just they talk about somewhere in here, JR was the one that fought for Mick Foley to get a shot. Sorry, we've had oil problems, and not oil, but radiator issues. If the car starts taking up, I have to turn it off. I think it's okay for now. Alright, hasn't made a sound anyway. So, he was the one that argued Mick Foley needs a shot. And it is kind of interesting that, man, like, Vince McMahon, like, he has a good business sense, I guess, but creatively, he's kind of, he's very frustrating, like, being a wrestling fan. He would just fuck over the fans so often and not give them what they wanted. I wonder if there is something to that attracts wrestling fans, like some sadomasochistic thing, or if you give them what they want, they just or get bored of it. You know, it's like pickup artist said, you know, that's already not that it matters, but like you dangle a piece of fucking yarn in front of people's face and then they chase it. But if you just hand it to them what they want, you know, they're like, I don't care. So like when they fucked over Danielson, speaking of that, again, different company, but like the Royal Rumble, I wasn't around for that, but I've been watching videos, you know, to get back into the history of wrestling. Sorry, these glasses are already starting to distract me. But then they would push Roman Reigns and shit, and then they'd like never give fucking John Cena a heel turn, even though, dude, I was a huge John Cena fan back in like 2003, 2002 when he was starting. It was about 2003, maybe a little bit 2002, but when he was starting that the rapping gimmick, like that was fucking great. He was the bad guy doing that shit, and that was his bit. That was when he was the most interesting, man. And then there's like, oh, he's a good guy now, which made sense at the time, but then everyone turned on him, and then he just became annoying. You know, it was like, well, he's selling merchandise to kids. It's all that matters. So whatever. That's the thing with WWE, man. Is they're a business machine. They know how to sell the merchandise, but the product is shit to watch, dude. It's fucking all garbage. Let me see what else I have in here. Oh, he talks about he has this book. All right, I made a note actually to show this part if I can find it. If I don't get like frustrated and be like, I should just be cutting parts of this. Lately, I haven't. Like, I remember when I was first recording, I was like, cut. Like, oh, shit. But yeah. So here he's talking about showing his book idea. Let's hear, Steph said. Well, it's about this shy kid. Oh, hold on. Blah, blah, blah. Kind of tough life. Being kicked around. Sounds good, Kurt said. That's Kurt Angle. That's Stephanie McMahon, Vince's daughter. Probably won't be a part, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, he's talking about his book, Kirby, Titan. So, did he mention the book up here? He's talking about this book, Titan Brown. Wait, is it? I think it starts on page 41. But he talks about some weird shit, too. It's not about either. He more or less orders her to finish a job. God damn it. Oh, well, wait. Man, I'm like, I should probably practice. I'm gonna go and pause this. Hold on. Here, where he talks about his weird ass book called Titan Brown. I was gonna get a little shot of this, but I can't find that part. Well, the night is Christmas Eve, and Titan hears actors recreate the nativity scene on the front lawn, blah blah blah. On this night, Andy has fallen asleep, using his Nat King Cole cassette to drown out the sex next door. He's talking about his dad fucking, I guess. He awakes to find that something weird is going on, under the sheets. He's startled, and he sits up, causing the girl who had been, doing something to him under there to retreat from the bed. And he sees Virgin Mary dressed like that. Steph and Kurt were transfixed. I think Kurt was even turned on. He was touching his gold medal as part of his gimmick. But Andy's dad is not about to let either of them off so easy, or is he? More or less orders her to finish the job. You can imagine what kind of job it is. And Andy's too scared to say no. So he's feeling the worst and best feelings of his life. He tries to escape the reality, blah, blah, blah. He claps her hands and talks about all that shit. Alright, cool. So, yeah, it's kind of, you know what, I am somewhat interested in this book now. I kind of want to read Titan Brown. Like I said, even though I'd be curious to see how he wrote it. I'd give it a chance. His other book, I think, is called Scooter. That one I'm not. Maybe I'd be interested in if this one turned out to be good. Oh, shit. Let me see, on page 43. God damn it, this book's like, at least it's easier to do this in here. Oh, yeah, so. And then, he's talking to his editor or whatever. I sent this to give you an idea of the meta shit in this book. I sent the manuscript to Knopf, if that's how you pronounce it. So, I had no idea of Alfred A. Knopf's lofty status in the book business. It was the home of John Updike, V.S. Naipaul, and a lot of other writers whose work I'd never read. I know office, blah, blah, blah. Wow, they must be prestigious if I don't read them. Victoria Wilson's the editor there. So I'm going to feed your ego and tell you how great you are, but will challenge you and make you a better writer. I dreaded that call. Blah, 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 blah. Is there anything else I need? You're a natural storyteller, but it's got problems. Major problems. I'm not talking about a few edits. Anyway. Alright, so, it gives a little meta, like I said, meta info on publishing process about, like, what it takes to publish a novel and, like, what you'll have to edit out. And depending on the editor, they'll push you to do great things, but then you have to put in more work. So there's that. Oh yeah, then there's on page 52, I'm not going to show this, I even put a note, no need to show. You talk about this Brian Johnson of AC/DC and how him and Triple H noticed that he has a giant cock. So they go on about that, so silly. Then there's this guy, Richard Price. Alright, that's some kind of writer. I don't know his works. John Irving, I know a little bit about. Even him, I'm like, what the fuck? I'm thinking mostly Washington Irving, I think, but whatever, John Irving. Anyway, I'm not going to think too much of it. But so Richard Price was complimentary of his novel, but then he started sending so he had problems getting somebody to pay attention, but then finally, I think he finally got John Irving to write him a blurb or some shit. I don't know. Read the book, god damn it. Oh yeah, there's on page 74, Adam West reads from his book. Should I show that? I feel like we should probably just go along. But Adam West is the Batman dude, and it's kind of funny where he reads parts from his book. Oh yeah, so I made a note here. This is also the case with his other book. Both Al Snow and Test, he makes lots of jokes about because they were not very... Like, he makes jokes about how boring they are. Like, he jokes mostly about how Al Snow isn't very popular with people. Like, he was part of the Job Squad, and then jokes about how Test isn't a very good worker in the sense that his matches are rather boring, So it's kind of like, that's like an inside gimmick throughout. Oh, yeah, and on page 103, I don't need to show it, I guess. But it's interesting. Here's a coincidence. I got a push note about this the other day, just like a few days ago, where it says Mick Foley wants a certain wrestling move banned, and I can't remember which I clicked first. I think I clicked the push note, and then it was like the same day or the next day I read this in the book, where he wants the German suplex ban, because he talks about several people have been injured taking it, you know, and even though it's like a staple, like Chris Benoit used to do it all the time, which I'm surprised he didn't get banned right after all that Chris Benoit shit, man. I was watching wrestling at the time that shit happened. He was supposed to wrestle CM Punk at fucking Night of Champions. I remember the theme song was called Gone, you know, fittingly. Yeah, it would have been interesting. I was really interested in that fight too, the Chris Benoit versus CM Punk match, and it's gone now. I could go into a whole fucking rant about Chris Benoit, because I have a whole views about similar people like Chris Benoit, but that should be saved for another time. I might eventually start like a whole thing about opinions and stuff. Not like this channel. Like I said, I don't get any views on this channel yet. Like maybe one day this will all pay off, but I just do this for fun. Like I'll go back and watch this myself maybe one day. Oh, I do need to show this because I talked about this a little bit. Alright, this is on page 110 where he talks about the whole thing about it's almost like a chiasmus in my head, whether that house actually exists or not. Alright, it's at the bottom there. Alright, where was it? I think it's on page 110. Wait, yeah, hold on, let me pause it. Yeah, I even wrote penultimate. Penultimate's a good word, by the way. It's second before last. Alright. Writer's right. It's in their blood. I'm not a writer. I'm a wrestler who happens to write. There's a difference. And I like that. I like that. It made me think about my own writing, because, well, I don't, but, yeah, I'm definitely gonna get viewed as pretentious by my one viewer. Nate already thinks I'm pretentious anyway. Alright, so, he's on all these comments at least. God damn it. Leave comments, god damn it. I don't care if you thumbs up or what, because thumbs don't mean shit anymore. Oh yeah, here's a fucked up moment. So he talks, this is after this note, but he does a lot, WWE does a lot of work with like Make-A-Wish kids. It's interesting. So he talks a lot in the, hold up, this one, I'm talking about the book, but Make-A-Wish kids come up often in this book, and like I said, you see them all the time. It's like, it's cool though, man. Make a lot of fucking kids happy just singing their favorite wrestlers and shit. So I think that's awesome. So he like introduces one to Dee Snider, I think it's Twisted Sister, Bent Brother. Saw that recently. They talk about that in here, I think. All right, so I have to show you one fucked up moment. Now that we're talking about a feel good moment, I got to show you this fucked. Oh wait, hold on. There's some pictures in here. So I won't show all the pictures, but here's where he has a fucked up. He has a fucked up eye here. Should I just jump around to the pictures? Because some of these pictures I haven't even seen. But fuck it. This is, I'm videotaping. You might as well see some Born to be Wired. Oh yeah. So wait, let's jump. Is there another set of pictures? Oh yeah, Terry Funk. I know my funker. I saw him in WCW. That was after like his glory days though. Jim Cornette talks about the glory days of him. He was in Paul Heyman. Who else is? Yeah, I don't know. There's a bunch of fucking pictures back here. I haven't even got to. Like my gimmick right now is that I don't even God damn it! No, I went too far. Page 20. Okay, I'm already on page 250 right now, so I usually start showing people about the book before I even finish. You know what book I'd like to show? Matt Hughes' MMA book. If I ever feel the need to reread that, that book is fucking nuts. I remember reading it, it's like, oh my god, this is madness. And then somebody released it like online about the craziness. Alright, hold on, let me find the part in here. Oh yeah, here's a good moment. I considered myself something of a devout Catholic for the next 10 years or so, until seeing a photo in Newsday, Long Island's main newspaper, of the priest who married me and baptized my first kid. Underneath the bold. Now, before I show the next page, what do you think is going to be the, not the punchline, but the conclusion of this? What's the twist? I think we all know, given that it's Catholic priests, what the answer will be, as this was big around this time, especially around 2003. And you've guessed it, the headline is pedophile. Beautiful. I have been reeling a little from a string of problems in the Catholic Church. Blah, blah, blah. Denouncing of birth control, blah, blah. Obvious pedophilia problem. Yeah. So, while faith in God never ceased, and my faith in man acting his name certainly did. Yeah, I don't need to go on a whole religious thing myself here. Is there anything I can add on this? No, I guess it pretty much speaks for itself, if we're going to stick to just the parts of the book. Alright, what's next? Oh yeah, so JT Smith. Oh yeah, he talks. I'm gonna go and say we're gonna start wrapping this up. But on page 220, I need to go back to 208 later. But on page 220, he talks about how fuck. I think I need to go and no. All right, I won't show this. I'll go and tell it. It doesn't matter. He talks about how there's no friends in wrestling. You know, it's like you might think you have friends, but he goes the fucking British Bulldog. If anybody remembers him, he was doing really bad, and fucking Owen. I think it was Owen Hart. He says at the time was like, man, he really needs to see people. He'll be happy to see you. And Mick Foley showed up. And it was just him and another dude, and no one else had showed up, even though he wanted people to be there for him and show they cared. No one showed up, and at that moment he's like, I'm not like, I don't owe the wrestling business anything after this, after I see the way they treat people, and dude, it does make me feel that way sometimes about WWE, man, especially WWE, man. It's like so many good people get fucked over. Look at the Matt Hardy shit with Edge and Lita, I'm not going to go into that if you don't already know. What's another one? They've done it a lot, dude, where they just like what they did to WCW people when they brought them in, DDP especially, and then Booker T around WrestleMania 19. I watched a video on that recently, dude. It's hard to like see, like there's so many unethical shits with Vince McMahon when he was in charge. Mick Foley says a lot of good things about McMahon in here, but it's just hard to see him a lot of times when you just see all the shit he's done to people, man, and just all the like that one Hart thing. I don't even know if I can blame it on Vince, but just man, there's a whole bunch more. I'm trying to think of any other in particular, but yeah, the WCW thing, like fucking DDP is such a nice dude. It seems like, and they fucked him over. The Danielson thing, even the CM Punk thing, where like people thought they changed shit, with the pipe bomb promo. I didn't watch that at the time. I had to go back and watch it later. I don't remember exactly when I found out about it. Just like how much he's fucked people over, dude, and it's shitty to see. And just and then the Nexus thing, where he just I mean, there's argument whether John Cena was to blame or Vince McMahon on that. I've heard both stories. Yeah, I don't know, it's fucked up, man. It's just that's why I want to like AEW, even though there's things about it I don't like. I like the idea that they've been having fucking internal strife, but it doesn't. Tony Khan doesn't seem like a bad guy. They would fuck people over like this. Even though there's been cases where I feel like people got fucked over. I feel like it's just because there's so many people to deal with. Whereas WWE, I feel like they just fuck people over to be complete dickwads, man. They're just like they had fucking going back to British Bulldog lose in his hometown after he'd been promised he was going to win to Shawn Michaels. Oh, that whole Shawn Michaels Bret Hart shit. Oh, man. Oh, Vader. I feel bad for Vader, dude. What they did to him at SummerSlam 96 and all, man. It's just, so many fucking memories where I have, like, resentment about those motherfuckers. Oh, yeah, okay, so let me pause it real quick. Alright, so this is where he loses faith. Of course, there's a million reasons to lose faith in WWE, but this is how he lost faith in ECW. The Kane Dewey sign is the defining moment in ECW career. So, Dewey is his son. So, this dude had a Kane Dewey sign. And it's actually sign made me physically, or her wife, yeah. And I think he blames something about Paul Heyman there, so I don't know. That's just a sign. But here's where he talks about this guy named JT Smith. Affected him more. Him, well, he's a heck of a guy. Then he says, however, he slipped off the top rope, Viking Hall, and crashed at first, and his head swelled up dangerously. That reminds me of that fucking New Jack incident where he said spinal fluid came. That didn't stop the ECW faithful from reveling in his pain. You fucked up, they chanted over and over. But as you can probably guess, they didn't just say the first initial. Oh yeah, he doesn't like to curse. Stunned, sickened, because in that one moment I realized that ECW was a dead end. If to stay any longer, and that it would be the death of my career. Listen to that. Yeah. So, yeah, man, there's like a lot of, and this is coming from Mick Foley. He's an overall pretty positive dude, but you just like the fact that he talks so much about all the fucking depressing shit that happened back in the wrestling business, man. Like, you can imagine the resentment other motherfuckers must have if he has this much resentment, man. Oh, yeah, here's from his feud with Randy Orton. I actually like Randy Orton's face turn for a little bit, even though everyone hates it, even talks about how bad it was in here. What is this? Oh, yeah, Marcos. Here's a line. This is, of all the ones to end on, actually fitting for all the negativity. Except he did live. This is about this guy named Mark. I think he's a Make-A-Wish kid that wanted that people chant his name. They give him except he did live to hear those cheers. I made sure of it. So did Chris Benoit. So did Bill Goldberg. But I just thought it was funny. Except he did live to hear. And then it says, so did Chris Benoit. And I just find that kind of ironic. That was mentioned in this right before that happened. And as we zoom into the word Chris Benoit, or just Benoit, since it cuts off the Chris, this is how we'll end this book. Signing out.